everything, you gotta tune in. The Hot Morning Show on Hot FM 98.5, 98.7 with yours truly, Gary, Mr. Smooth. Kaboom!
Waking up to the unmistakable voice and the sound of Whitney Houston in the morning time. It gave me one moment in time. Good morning to you, Grenada, Carrico, PD, Martinique, the rest of the Eastern Caribbean. It's about 22 minutes on to the hour of 7 o'clock in the morning time. It's a wonderful, a glorious, a super Tuesday. It's the 19th day of the month of October. A day that for many and for little, it depends on which side of the fence you're, it means a whole lot, and it may probably mean nothing at all. But what it means for each and every one of us is that it's a day that we can start all over, for being grateful that we are alive and well. Good morning to you, the listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9, our viewers on GBN Television, and those of you that's on Facebook, YouTube, or the World Wide Web. I'm Joseph Cadore, and it's a glorious, I send you a glorious, extended, a wonderful, blessed good morning to you. We're going to kickstart things off, get your day started. Those of you heading in for 7 o'clock, you're sure already you left home and be on your way as you keep our eyes on the clock. Yes? So we're going to start things off today with the word of the day. And the word of the day is attitude. Yes? Attitude. The word of the day, attitude. And attitude is a noun, and it is spelled ATTITUDE. Attitude. And your attitude basically is the way you think and feel about someone or something. That's your attitude. So we have attitude towards work and different attitudes for different places and times. So sometimes you do not be fooled. But however you feel or think about something or someone, and that is your attitude towards it. So looking at attitude as you wake up this morning, and you'd recognize that your attitude literally, it allows you, it drives you, it makes you who you are. It helps to develop your personality, whether or not you're a likable person, you smile, or you greet somebody, or you're standoffish seemingly. But today I want to say to you that the only difference between a good day, which is today, because today is a good day, the only difference between today and any other day and a bad day is your attitude. Your attitude literally stands between success and failure. So the word of the day. Now, just a thought as we move from the word of the day, as I say to you, the only difference between a good day and a bad day is your attitude. So if you, for some reason, you're thinking, I'm not having a good day, it's probably good to stop and ask yourself, how's my attitude? And then even evaluate, how does my attitude affect others? How does my attitude affect me? Because sometimes we don't even realize that our attitude really and truly, it puts us in some really bad position. It gives us a bad aura, and we may not even recognize it. So your first thought of the day is the only difference between a good day and a bad day is your attitude. Second thought for the day. A positive attitude gives you and me power over our circumstances, having power over you. A positive attitude gives you the power over your circumstances instead of your circumstances having power over you. Your situation, I say to you, I declare to you this morning, does not determine who you are and the way you behave. Those are choices that you make. So a positive attitude, you can either determine this morning at 17 minutes to the hour of 7 that my glass is either half empty or half filled. I either have half of the distance to go, I've completed half of the distance. What are you going to determine? What are you going to determine? So you start working at 8 o'clock. You can either decide, well, I have 4 more hours to go in the working day, or I have already completed 4 hours. It's all about your attitude. Now the question may be, now that we're in attitude, and you may ask yourself, well, how does my attitude affect me? How does it affect others today? As we plan our day for today, Tuesday, the 19th of October. I'm just going to give you some basic tips as to how you can change your attitude today. Basic things. We're just going to run through them quickly. Always act with purpose. Some things, your granny says, idle hand is the devil's workshop. Literally. Act with purpose. Do things as though there's a reason for doing it. Don't just sit around idly and wait for things to happen. So one of the things that you can do is always act with purpose. Before you take an action, consider what the possible end result is going to be. And if it's not going to yield anything positive, then I submit to you, leave it alone. We're going to go through the second one. Stretch yourself past your limits every day. Yes, doing the same old thing is depressing. So today, resolve within yourself, and then I'm going to do something different. Success is like athletics. If you don't stretch yourself every day, you gradually become slow and brittle. Another tip, take action without expecting results. Now, while you naturally must make decisions and take actions based on unexpected results, it's a big mistake to expect those results and then become disappointed. So you have to mentally ask yourself, yes, okay, I'm going to do this. However, you have to be gentle on yourself and don't be too harsh and everything else. Use setbacks as a way to improve your skills rather than feeling, oh my Lord, I feel rejected, and looking back. Listen, use it as a stepping stone. Yes, it's a delay, not a denial. Positive mental attitude. That's what we are going to adopt on a Tuesday. Then seek out those who share positive attitude. Your parents would say to you, you show me your company and I'll tell you who you are. Keep people around you that makes you positive and they build you. It's a scientific fact that your brain automatically imitates the behavior of people that you're around. If the people around you, they exude negativity, then that's what you're going to adapt eventually. And then don't take yourself too serious. Honestly, don't. Sometimes we pressure ourselves. Listen, you'll be much happier if you allow yourself sometimes just to smile. Allow yourself to make a mistake. Remind yourself to listen, life is short. And allow yourself this morning to forgive the limitation of others. Sometimes we live our lives as though we are perfectionists. You might be perfect if you say so, but the rest of us, I, Joseph Cadore, am not perfect. So sometimes we have to make allowances for that in life. Not necessarily that meaning that we yield to mediocrity, but allow it to remind yourself, the people you see on TV, the politicians, the pastor, your neighbor, we are only humans. Forgive the limitations of others, and they would forgive yours as well. And at the end of the day, a good way to address our attitude is to say thank you more frequently. Say thank you. Good morning, Krista. Thank you. We're a team. We learn to say thank you. Show appreciation for the simple things. You never really quite understand how the simple things of just saying thank you, how far it goes on any given day. So the word for today, attitude. And attitude basically just has to do with the way you feel and think about people and things that is around you. We're getting ready for the morning edition. I am looking for just by the way of information, today Tuesday, postcard briefing in case you're planning your day, and that would be facilitated today by the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health. And I just want to run through quickly if I can find it. Krista, I'm going to looking quickly at the COVID-19 dashboard. We've had 23 confirmed cases. Our total case count, active cases 136, recoveries 18, one death, and I'm happy that the death toll is really slowing down considerably. From last Friday to now, weekend came and go, there was just one death. One too much though, but at least it is slowing down. So the cumulative death count is 193, but at least we're seeing a steady decline. As you go through the day, reminding you, do what you can, Grenada. Play your part in containing this COVID-19 crisis, and just continue, of course, to be good at what you do. Take care of yourself. We're getting ready for the morning edition, the production for News and Current Affairs Department. That's on radio. For those of you that's on television, you'll get a rebroadcast of the top stories from last evening. Yeah, I will rejoin you at the other side of the clock, when we continue with the program right here on Classic. Check your attitude. Keep it in check. Don't take yourself a little serious. Allow yourself to laugh in the morning time. So long, everybody. We're getting ready for the morning edition here on Classic Radio, 105.5 and 105.9 on the FM band.
5 foreign nationals have reportedly been detained in connection with a daylight robbery at the Grenada Cooperative Bank on the sister isle of Carriacou today. Chrislina John has the details of that brazen crime, which comes about 2 years after a similar robbery.
Workers at one of the leading financial institutions on the sister isle were the target of gunmen today. GBN received reports of a robbery at the Grenada Cooperative Bank, Carriacou, by masked men. There are no reports of injuries. Corporal Codina Douglas McLean at the Community Relations Department of the RGPF confirmed to GBN that the incident did occur, however, were not willing to divulge further information on the incident as investigations are ongoing.
This time I can only confirm the incident. I'm not in a position to speak to the details surrounding this occurrence, this alleged occurrence, but what we can do is confirm that had happened.
Our news desk understands shots were fired as the men attempted to make their getaway from the island by boat. 2 years ago, on October 11th, thieves got away with an undisclosed sum of money during an armed robbery at the Grenada Union of Teachers Credit Union branch in Carriacou. 2 men were arrested on the island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in connection with the robbery. However, the latest bit of information on this matter is that Grenada was seeking the extradition of 2 St. Vincent and the Grenadines nationals accused of staging the robbery at the Grenada Union of Teachers Credit Union in Carriacou. When asked about this matter, Corporal Douglas McLean says they are not in a position to provide information on the outcome in this matter. Police is seeking the public's assistance. Anyone with information is asked to contact Police Emergency at 911, Police Hotline at 444-1958, Carriacou Police Station at 440-7482 or 7840, the Criminal Investigation Department at 440-3921 or the nearest police station. Investigations are ongoing. Chrislina John, GBN News.
Meanwhile, reports coming out from Carriacou in relation to today's robbery were like from the scenes of a movie. Information indicate that the 5 Trinidadian nationals were caught after a high-speed chase at sea involving the Grenada Coast Guard. The video currently on your screens being shown highlights the chase involving the Coast Guard and the men alleged to have committed the robbery. GBN also secured a photo of the men being escorted to an awaiting Coast Guard vessel to be transported to the mainland. Meanwhile, an official press statement posted on the Facebook page of the Ministry of Carriacou and PT Martinique Affairs from the parliamentary representative for the Sister Isles, Kindra Mathurin Stewart, applauded the law enforcement and security forces on the island, whose swift action reportedly ensured that 5 foreign nationals allegedly implicated in the robbery were captured. The statement read, and I quote, "My office has been informed that men identified as all Trinidadian nationals were captured at sea during their attempted getaway from the island after allegedly robbing the Carriacou branch of the Grenada Cooperative Bank located at Hillsborough, Carriacou." Unquote. It further stated that the people of Carriacou and PT Martinique are heartened by the swift and efficient action of the local police and Coast Guard, which reflects the improved local security capacity on the island. The news release also said that the government invested great resources in personnel and equipment in the ongoing efforts at improved security. Meanwhile, for better news for Cooperative Bank, the managing director of the institution, Richard Duncan, says the significance of the acquisition of FCIBC First Caribbean is in being a locally owned and managed financial institution which has developed its capacity to the point of competing and acquiring another entity. Mr. Duncan alludes to a major milestone for Co-op Bank, which has a history with FCIBC First Caribbean's predecessor, Barclays Bank. We get the details in this report.
The Grenada Cooperative Bank has evolved from having Barclays Bank, which is now CIBC First Caribbean, as its bankers, to having the capacity to acquire that financial institution. Managing Director of the Grenada Cooperative Bank, Richard Duncan, says being able to compete with other acquirers and achieve success speaks volumes, notwithstanding its historic and strategic significance.
It means that much more of the country's deposits are under the management and control of Nationals of Grenada. It means that the profits arising from that acquisition stays in Grenada in the hands of Grenadian shareholders of the bank.
Mr. Duncan says during the process of acquisition and even after, Grenada Cooperative Bank will ensure that workers' interests is protected.
Employees of FCIB who, when the opportunity arises, up to seek employment at the bank and when accepted will enjoy such similar accommodation, facilities and benefits. As a consequence of that, we do not see any reasons for concern or industrial unease either at FCIB or at GCBL.
Managing Director Designate Larry Lawrence impresses that the bank now has to file an application to the ECCB, who is the regulator, for approval.
We're comfortable that the Grenada Cooperative Bank has the capacity, the ability to take on the transaction, take on the new levels of business. You know, we have resources in terms of capital adequacy. We have resources in terms of human resource capital. So this is what the ECCB will opine on upon our application as part of this process.
Mr. Lawrence notes that Co-op Bank remains open to infusing external talent and influence. The same will apply to employees of CIBC First Caribbean.
There is always areas for improvement, but rest assured, the capabilities of the electronic banking channels of the Grenada Cooperative Bank is impressive, and we do believe verily that customers of FCIB will enjoy enhanced electronic banking services as part of the transition over to Co-op Bank.
The Grenada Cooperative Bank's management says they do not expect any resistance to the acquisition on a national level. I am Gerard Joseph for GBN News.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell welcomed the decision by Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited to acquire the banking operations of CIBC First Caribbean in Grenada. The move is part of an initiative by a consortium of leading indigenous banks in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union to acquire CIBC First Caribbean operations in Grenada, Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Managing Director of Grenada Cooperative Bank, Richard Duncan, and Managing Director Designate Larry Lawrence briefed the Prime Minister on the impending acquisition ahead of the official announcement. They assured the Prime Minister of the local bank's ability to manage the soon-to-be acquired assets and reiterated the strength of its management and governance structures. The Prime Minister applauded the local bank's participation in this major regional initiative, saying, and I quote, "Today's environment is for innovative and ambitious people," unquote. Meanwhile, the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union is hoping to avoid a repeat of previous instances in relation to the buyovers of financial institutions and ongoing industrial dispute. Earlier this year, workers during the RBTT ACB Bank buyout protested for 5 straight weeks before the issue was resolved. Yet another acquisition of a bank in Grenada was announced last week, and the trade union in the line of duty once again is the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union.
GTAU President St. Andrew Lewis says the union will engage the relevant authorities to ensure the necessary regulatory approval is not given until outstanding issues are addressed within CIBC First Caribbean.
In the case of First Caribbean, we have a ruling from the Labour Commissioner on the question of overtime payment, where the bank illegally scheduled workers to work outside of the normal working period according to the Labour Code, and has not paid them. and is trying to hide behind something not to pay them, but we will not allow that to happen. There's a question of their standing and collective negotiations, and then there's the aspect of where the bank is trying to come up with some unimaginable way to pay workers their severance pay.
Senator Lewis pointed to an even more recent unresolved issue whereby 2 workers were sent home and were paid incorrectly.
And therefore, it is important for Core Bank not to finalize any arrangement with First Caribbean because they do not want to inherit a problem like ACB inherited.
The Grenada Cooperative Bank has been earmarked as a member of the consortium of leading indigenous banks in the ECCU to acquire the Grenadian branch and banking operations of CIBC First Caribbean. The union leader says, sadly, they have become experts on such issues, which is a direct indication of unemployment.
You no longer have Scotia, and pretty soon you would no longer have First Caribbean, and you no longer have RBTT. So in a way, as the investors and these shareholders in the banks that are doing the purchases, as their portfolios increase, yes, because they now control the market, it is not good for the employment status in the country.
He says it is unfortunate that the union learned of the buyover on the same day as the announcement, and they now await the engagement on the outstanding issues. According to a release from Core Bank, it is committed to recruiting Grenadian staff of CIBC First Caribbean as required to maintain and even improve the level and quality of service that CIBC First Caribbean customers are accustomed to. I am Gerard Joseph for GBN News.
One pregnant woman was a victim of unprovoked violence over the weekend. The victim is presently warded at the General Hospital in stable condition.
I can say is that over this past weekend, we have recorded several breaches, both in relation to the emergency powers regulation and the criminal laws of our country. Right? Sunday, we had a chopping incident involving a 28-year-old pregnant woman and a mentally challenged relative. That occurred at Willis, St. George, and the woman who received several chop wounds about her body, she is presently warded at the General Hospital in a stable condition, and the accused person is at Mungay Mental Hospital.
Also over the weekend, police arrested and charged a 34-year-old of Subi, St. Andrew, in connection with a chopping incident involving a 16-year-old.
Also, over the weekend, we have another stabbing at Subi's in St. Andrew, and this time it involved a 16-year-old resident and a 34-year-old. So the 34-year-old is Montgomery Nelson of the same address, Subi's, and he was charged for grievous harm. He was brought before the Grenada Magistrates Court this morning and granted bail in the amount of $15,000 with 2 sureties.
That was Cortina Douglas McLean of the Community Relations Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force. Still on police news, the police have questioned several people in relation to last Wednesday's rape and robbery of a 73-year-old St. Andrew resident. Still traumatized by the incident, relatives are seeking justice for their elderly relative.
While family members continue to call for justice for the 73-year-old relative who has been robbed and raped, police say they are inching closer to catching up with the culprit. Corporal Cortina Douglas McLean, attached to the Community Relations Department, provided this latest update.
I can say at this time is that several persons were detained and questioned, and we are still very actively involved in that investigation. And once anyone is arrested or charged, we will update members of the public accordingly, hoping for outcome a positive outcome in this not too distant future.
The victim, who lived alone in the St. Andrew area, was attacked at around 3 a.m. by a man she said was wearing a dark-colored clothing, gloves, face and head coverings. The unsuspecting elderly woman was not only robbed of her money, phone and groceries, but also her dignity. According to a relative who spoke with GBN, says the 73-year-old has constant nightmares and is finding it difficult to sleep in her home. Neighbors police came to her rescue of providing accommodation for her until the family put other security measures in place for her safety. Police also revealed that one man has been detained following the attack on 83-year-old Neville Alexander of Mount Horn, St. Andrew, who said he was attacked by two young men on his farm.
And so that investigation, I'm sure we all remember that a senior citizen was attacked in his farmlands not too long ago. And we are pleased to report that one of the accused, Valin Murray, a 19-year-old resident of Mount Horn, he was arrested and charged on the weekend for causing harm. And he was granted bail and is scheduled to appear in court on December 7th, 2021. Notwithstanding the fact that he's the only person arrested so far, we wish to reassure members of the public and the complainants in this regard that our investigations are still ongoing.
The officer says they are not leaving any stones unturned in this matter as they seek to bring the other perpetrator to justice. Investigation into the rape of 84-year-old Margaret Noel 2 years ago remain under investigation, as well as the recent acts of vandalism in her home. Christina John, GBN News.
A visionary leader, dedicated, humble, and generous. Those are just some of the words used to describe cultural icon, the late Peter Bain, BEM. Residents of the big parish especially and surrounding areas turned out in droves to witness and pay tribute to a legend who has greatly impacted culture, sports, and business in Grenada. Gerard Joseph has that story.
His sister, Yolan Bain Hosford, in delivering the eulogy, attributed her brother Peter Bain's love for carnival and pageantry evolved from his youthful days with his 12 siblings and friends. This as dozens line the boundary of the Granborough Cemetery, while close family, friends and band members said goodbye to an icon. In 1993, Bain Hosford noted was the birth of Rainbow City Mass Promoters, which became many years of selfless contributions to Grenada's culture, especially in the parish of St. Andrew.
He was instrumental in having the first ever St. Andrew's Carnival Development Office built at the quarry on Chapel Road in Grenville. As a result, the Kiddies Carnival show was revived. The Shakespeare Mass from the sister Isle of Carriacou and the Moko Jumbies from Trinidad were brought in to enhance the carnival product.
Executive member of the Morris Bishop and October Martyrs Foundation, Dr. Terence Marichaud, recalled the many selfless contributions the late Peter Bain made to recognizing October 19th, even up to his death. Dr. Marichaud spoke to the irony of his burial being on the day before October 19th.
Even on his sick bed, he was telling his beloved wife, Nola, that even if it was just a wreath, she had to lay on the wall because he recognized the restrictions in these COVID times, that she should do it and go and pay tribute as we have done all along. Such was the character and the profound nature of this outstanding individual who was more concerned about others than his own self. And so we remember and pay tribute today to his father, Norris Bain, Morris Bishop, and all of those who lost their lives on October the 19th.
The tribute included the impact Rainbow City Mass Promoters via its band leader have had on Carnival in Grenville, as well as on the sister Isle of Carriacou and within the Grenada Mass Band Association.
I've heard up there the streets are made of gold, and when you get there, there's a hand to hold. I believe when your days out here are through, there's a place out there for you life.
CEO of the Spice Mass Corporation, Kelvin Jacob, in paying tribute to the cultural icon, highlighted Peter Bain's last cooperation with the SMC.
2 weeks before he became ill, he had a conversation with us about how we can work together to get Spice Mass back in 2022.
He was not only a man of culture but of sports during his days at the St. Andrews Anglican Secondary School.
In my opinion, Peter was one of the best athletes that passed through SAS. We both represented SAS at Interpol every year of the 5 years we were at the institution. In the first 3 years, I ran all sprints and then later middle distance, while Peter did just about all field events.
Peter Bain's burial was indeed a somber day for the residents of Granborough and St. Andrew, as many pledged to ensure his legacy lives on. I am Gerard Joseph for GBN News.
Once again, the management and staff of the Grenada Broadcasting Network would like to extend condolences to all those who would mourn the passing of Peter Bain. And now it's time to take a peek through the GBN ISOR lens.
This is the moment a huge water spout was captured on camera by a resident of Cienfuegos, Cuba on Saturday, October 16th. The phenomenon lasted for about 10 minutes according to the country's meteorological agency. Although waterspouts can pose a danger in some circumstances, no damage was reported. We thank our ISOR reporter for this submission.
Possible draconian measures to force its members to take the COVID-19 vaccines.
I think he should tread cautiously and be wise. Yes, he might be pressured. We don't know from where. Probably the government of Grenada. We don't know if it's locally, regionally, and internationally. And he have a lot of things to deal with. But let wisdom prevail. And don't go down that road of forcing vaccination upon teachers and other workers of this country. Convince them, educate them, and let them make a matter of choice.
Government is presently discussing the reopening of schools as COVID cases continue to diminish. However, government made it clear that vaccination is seen as one of the possible measures to be considered towards the resumption of schools. In a recent message to Grenada, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell spoke about the important role of vaccination in the reopening of schools.
The vaccination rate, unfortunately, among teachers and other personnel in the education sector is abysmal. The uptake of Pfizer vaccine, which is administered to children for 12 and above, is also low at this point. Against this backdrop, it is difficult for government to announce at this time the reopening of schools.
Bartholomew is appealing to the Prime Minister to step with caution on the issue of vaccination. In August, the duty stated its stance on COVID-19 and mandatory vaccination.
We encourage teachers to educate themselves about the COVID-19 vaccine and to follow the Ministry of Health COVID-19 protocols, and that vaccination is a matter of choice, that teachers own free will. Let me just go forward. We made it clear that we are not against vaccination, but it must be a matter of choice. It may be a matter of choice. All right? What the Grenada Union of Teachers is totally against is mandatory vaccination.
Bartholomew says he wouldn't like the history of Prime Minister Mitchell as a long-standing politician to end with a bitter taste.
Prime Minister of Grenada and the government of Grenada, they didn't mandate in terms of elections. They didn't mandate in terms of to force people to vote for them. They didn't mandate in terms of they have 15 seats. And what did they do? They convinced the citizens of Grenada, this country, to vote for them. So if you could convince people to vote for you and you got 15 seats, what is in you now, directly now, that you can convince the nation, educate and convince your people?
Bartholomew says teachers are most happy in the classrooms, but believes that looking at a phased approach towards January of 2022 may be the safest at this time for the resumption of face-to-face teaching and learning. Cherry and Blackman Stephen, GBN News.
Let's get tough on breeder larceny. It will destroy our economy. Larceny threatens our food security. Can hurt us locally, hurt us globally. To all the buyers, ask for license from all produce sellers. To all the people, 300 for police for them thieving fellas. To all the farmers, please don't steal produce from your brother. Then you sell it to traffickers, hotels and street vendors. Nah, man. Let's do all we can to stop breeder larceny. New vigilance, new laws, and a tough judiciary. Stop Grenada's organized business crime. It's time.
To report breeder larceny, call 300. Get Ruby Gas. Get cooking. Ruby Gas, clean, safe, and reliable LPG is the perfect solution for your commercial and everyday needs. For cooking at home or barbecuing, choose Ruby Gas LPG cylinders. Available in a variety of sizes from 20 to 100 pound cylinders. Ruby Gas LPG, clean, safe, reliable. Are you cooking with Ruby Gas?
Get Rubis, get going.
Once upon a time, we shopped at Wonderland, then Neverland. But we're all grown up now and no longer believe in fairy tales. So now we just shop at Shoes R Us. At Shoes R Us, we stock the latest in shoes, tops, and jeans for the fashion-conscious lady. We also carry colognes and much, much more. And for the modern trendy male, we have the latest brand-name shoes and sneakers, Converse, Reebok, Nike, K-Swiss, Puma, and much more. So check us out at our two convenient locations, Melville Street in St. George and Ben Jones Street in Grenville. At Shoes R Us, we say, come shop with us.
Are you looking for quality herbs and herbal supplements? Or are you thinking about having a complete body cleanse to jumpstart your health? Then no need to look further. Visit Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center, and Natural Health Store. We carry a wide range of herbal products for kidney and gallstone cleansing, male sexual enhancement formulas, asthma and sinusitis, gas and bloating, acid reflux, constipation, arthritis, imbalanced hormones, female health issues, liver cleansing, weight loss, and so much more. Also available, colonic irrigation, holistic health consultations, essential oils, and diffusers. Look out for our online natural health store coming soon. Call 231-6642 for 18-7115 or 449-7753 to find out about our delivery options or to book an appointment. Visit us at Belmont St. George's, close to the Fallage, Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Nirvana Natural Health Clinic. Detox your way to health.
Introducing YouTube and TikTok to the Digicel Prime Bundle. Now get 1 gigabyte daily to enjoy more YouTube. Plus 1 gigabyte daily to like more TikTok videos. It's simply more entertainment bundled together. Get a 7-day bundle for $35 in My Digicel. More apps, more data, more fun. Digicel, better together.
Imagine having the home of your dreams. Imagine investing in that piece of property you can call your own. Imagine finally doing that home improvement project you've always been thinking about. It's time to stop imagining and start doing. Let the GUT Credit Union help you take the first step with fantastic rates, affordable repayments, and reduced legal fees. Make the move. Get better terms on your mortgage. Use your home equity to make those dreams a reality. Act now. There's really no place like home. GUT Credit Union. It's where you belong.
A disaster or emergency may disrupt food and water supply, so have at least a 3-day supply of food on hand. Store foods that have long storage life, need little or no cooking or refrigeration. Store canned or ready-to-eat foods, 100% canned fruit juices, nuts, crackers, dried herbs, and spices. A message from the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council in collaboration with the Ministry of Health with support from the Pan American Health Organization.
A whole new level of convenience and comfort awaits you when you shop at Rise and Shine Supermarket and Hardware Supplies, Griffin Lane, Grenville. Convenient, because we are open Sunday to Sunday. We're even at your service on public holidays. Comfort, because we are easily accessible to the physically challenged. Free Wi-Fi is available while you shop, and bags come at no charge. Everyday low prices and excellent customer care. Adequate parking available. We supply everything you can possibly think of. Family and home supplies, fresh meat, vegetables, and personal care products. All brands of cooking gas at affordable prices. You can send in your order, have it pulled, or pick up express.
gas-powered Ultratech gasoline and diesel. Available only at Rubis stations.
Are you looking for quality herbs and herbal supplements, or are you thinking about having a complete body cleanse to jumpstart your health? Then no need to look further. Visit Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center, and Natural Health Store. We carry a wide range of herbal products for kidney and gallstone cleansing, male sexual enhancement formulas, asthma and sinusitis, gas and bloating, acid reflux, constipation, arthritis, imbalanced hormones, female health issues, liver cleansing, weight loss, and so much more. Also available, colonic irrigation, holistic health consultations, essential oils, and diffusers. Look out for our online natural health store coming soon. Call 231-6642 418-7115 or 449-7753 to find out about our delivery options or to book an appointment. Visit us at Belmont St. George's, close to the Foliage, Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Nirvana Natural Health Clinic. Detox your way to health.
Introducing Color by Sissons. 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 Color by Sissons.
Protect yourself and our community from COVID-19. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. If soap and water are not available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 70% alcohol. Use a tissue when blowing your nose, sneezing, or coughing. Immediately discard the tissue properly and wash or sanitize your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Let's do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. To stay up to date, visit the Government of Grenada's webpage or the Ministry of Health's Facebook page. For more information, contact the Ministry of Health's hotline by calling 53-VIRUS. This has been a public service announcement brought to you by the Ministry of Health.
GBN Television News at 7, a pulse on all things Grenadian. Look out for our new features through expanded synergies with our media partners in Barbados, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad, and beyond. Capturing the latest in news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Credible, informative. Thank you for making us number one. News at 7, live, Monday to Friday on GBN Television, Channel 7 and 11. K105.5 and 105.9, Hot 98.5 and 98.7, GBN Television Facebook page and YouTube channel, and www.gbn.gd. GBN, with you anywhere and everywhere.
Hello, my name is COVID. The good weather is coming, and I'm sitting here waiting for those who won't wear their masks and do their hand washing. The good weather is coming, and I'm sitting here waiting for all those who refuse to do their social distancing. You see, I can't move on my own, so I sit and I wait for you to leave your home. You love the sunshine, the walks in the park, the barbecues, the gossip and the small talk, the carefree spirit that you are invincible, that I, COVID, is not all that terrible. So you let your guard down, and that's what I like. 'Cause I am in the country and I am in the town. To be honest, I am all around. You know the rules, how to beat me, even if you cannot see me. As small as I am, I sit and wait for the touch of your hand. Then I get to go wherever you go, because that's how I, COVID, begin to grow. The good weather is coming, and I am sitting here waiting for you.
So much to see. Every corner I turn, there's something there to remind me of my beautiful nation and what it means to me. Not a thing out of place, that's what's special about it. And do you hear? It's the songs the birds are singing. Do you hear? It's a sound that's everlasting, and there's no end in sight. Just the beginning of our lives. Sweet
Protect yourself and our community from COVID-19. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. If soap and water are not available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 70% alcohol. Use a tissue when blowing your nose, sneezing, or coughing. Immediately discard the tissue properly and wash or sanitize your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Let's do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. To stay up to date, visit the Government of Grenada's webpage or the Ministry of Health's Facebook page. For more information, contact the Ministry of Health's hotline by calling 53-VIRUS. This has been a public service announcement brought to you by the Ministry of Health.
Let me say, I was not present in Grenada on October 9th. Actually, I was a student in Cuba at that time. But I can also vividly remember getting that horrendous information and news that, there was turmoil in Grenada, that the revolution was in danger of being destroyed and all of that, and as students far away from Grenada and without that direct knowledge, one can imagine exactly what was going on in our minds. It wasn't before another 24 hours or so when we really, following the news, we found that things were in a complete chaotic state in Grenada. And so many of us organized and we marched to the Grenadian embassy in Cuba to find out from them exactly what was going on. All we could get was from the news and just little snippets from here and there. But it was like our worst nightmare coming true. And getting to the embassy, all of us, in total dismay and just distraught at the news that we were hearing, to know that we had only just left Grenada a few weeks before that, where everything seemed fine. Archbishop had just come from a triumphant visit to the United States, and I was in awe of the adulation that surrounded Bishop in August of 1983, when everybody was talking about this great speech that he made in Hunter College and what have you. And never in my wildest dreams did I believe that within a matter of weeks, between September when we returned to Cuba and October, that this man who was the greatest person that I was hearing about in Grenada only weeks before suddenly became this villain and this counter-revolutionary within a matter of weeks. I had never come to grips with that. And then having gone to the embassy now and then seeing actually firsthand a telex coming off of the telex machine in the embassy, telling us that Morris Bishop, Unison Whiteman, and this group of cabinet members were killed in crossfire. Well, let me tell you, I was livid with rage. If I could have, really gotten a hold of somebody, because first of all, I never believed that telex.
Okay.
I never believed it.
But while you are there, you speak about the telex, though. Even before we get to the telex, you speak with passion about you left Grenada not 2 weeks ago, and the message. What about the revolution in your eyes? What made the revolution so special for you?
It was special because it brought the dawn of a new era in terms of politics, in terms of the way government was managed, as we've never seen it before. And we had a leader now that we are proud of, a leader that the people followed, a leader who, when he spoke, represented the ordinary man. He represented the people of the Caribbean. He represented all the oppressed peoples of the world. And he could stand his ground with the best of them. All of the big interviewers and reporters in the United States who tried to corner him with everything. He was always ready for them, And then in terms of the politics of the day, it became a politics of inclusion, where people now they were given the opportunity to participate in the politics in a way that they never participated before. Before it was just going to the ballot box, you cast your vote, and that was it. Then Gary made all his decisions. He didn't really care, what people thought about it. But for once in our lives, we got that opportunity to participate. So it was a participatory kind of democracy that we were building in Grenada. And then we saw the changes almost immediately. People like myself, who would probably not have had that opportunity to study medicine.
Right.
Between March and September of 1983, we had well over 30 people going abroad to study in whatever field that you wanted to. I mean, almost miraculously, the politics was transformed. Before, we only had one single island scholarship if you were fortunate enough to get it. And usually it was set aside for privileged people or the sons and daughters of the ministers and so. That was the order of the day. And then almost overnight, you saw the sons and daughters of poor people who would never have had the opportunity to go abroad and study, being given that opportunity. And then in the 4 years of the revolution, we saw transformations in every aspect of our lives, whether it was, in the area of agriculture, in the area of fisheries, we put on an agro-industrial plan that was the envy of the people of the Caribbean. We began processing foods, I mean, can you imagine where we would be today if we had continued in that? But we set tone in terms of production in the Caribbean, because we're an agricultural country, and instead of exporting everything, we're adding value to our products. These are the kinds of things. The establishment of the National Importing Board, the Marketing and National Importing Board, the National Insurance Scheme, all of these things, you can see that this was a government that was about to transform Grenada in ways that we never dreamed before.
Many saw the former Prime Minister Bishop as a visionary and a man of the people, and he was loved, you say. What in your estimation went wrong, and where did it go wrong then?
People never stopped loving it. They never stopped loving it. It wasn't a question of the politics of Bishop and what he stood for. Because at the end of the day, the people who freed him from house arrest were the masses. He always referred to the masses. What went wrong is that Bishop was surrounded by a group of individuals who were incorporated into the ranks of the New Jewel movement. A group of hardliners, if you want to call it that. Like Bernard Code, when he was a professor at the University of the West Indies, so he came home, he groomed these guys, he taught them Marxism, Leninism. They belonged to a group called OREL, the Organization for Revolutionary Education and Liberation. That group never lost their allegiance to Code. They never, because they saw Code as the ideologue, they saw him as the person that they wanted ultimately to run the country. And so, very early in the revolution, problems began to emerge within the party. Problems that the masses were not really aware of, but these were problems more of an ideological nature than anything else.
Okay.
And in their quest now to ensure that Code was put into power, they began to invent and rewrite history. They began to question all of the things that were happening, when a lot of them are the ones that should have been working and doing the daily tasks that were required of them. But instead of doing that, many of them were sick, they were sculling the work. And at the end of the day, when things started to collapse a bit, they started now to blame Bishop for it. And then they started now to put into march a plan that they had to ensure that Code, who they considered as they call him at that time, the hardest hard. You know, the real communists, you know, because these guys were drunk on ideology, let's face it.
Okay.
They could find a parallel in almost everything that you said or everything that you did. They could find a parallel in the works of Marx and Lenin to justify everything that they saw or did. And there was one point where they decided now that Marx had to go. That they had reached a crossroads in the revolution where people really had to decide where they were going, whether they were going to the right opportunist path, as they call it at the time, or they were going to the route of true Marxism, Leninism. For them, Marx represented the right opportunist path, and for them, Cole represented the part of communism, the Leninist part, and all of that. They decided, it was time for him to move. Remember, it was in the time of the Cold War era and all of that. And
right.
Their perfect society was the Soviet Union. And they wanted to impose the Soviet Union on Grenada without recognizing that Grenada did not have those historical conditions. We are a poor, undeveloped country that didn't have a proper developed working class and all of that. And you could not impose the Soviet Union. But they were so misguided, they were so illusional that they thought this could have happened in Grenada. And so they invented this crisis. And this is after Morris came back from this triumphant visit from New York. And people were just talking about Morris and the chief was so brilliant, and everybody thought, this is the kind of representation that we are used to, and this is the kind of representation that we need in the country. This is the kind of leadership that we want. And as far as the people were concerned, everything was going fine. We knew that at that time as well, it was a difficult time, it was an austerity time, because all of the resources were being directed towards the completion of the international airport, which was going to come for the next anniversary of the revolution, which would have been the 5th anniversary.
Let's just halt here a bit, Dr. Marisho, because now that you've introduced into the conversation the international airport, it certainly it takes the conversation to a different era, a different place in time. You've highlighted the fact that Grenada was at a crossroads in terms of ideology.
Not Grenada.
The party itself, what's happening within the New Jewel movement, they were at a crossroad, and that crossroads was it had to do with the party itself, individuals in the party, and not the country itself.
Not the country.
Not the country.
Not the country.
Okay.
Because they're just for the first time introducing political classes. The year that the revolution collapsed was the year of political education. And people are just beginning to understand, the socialist nature of the revolution and where it was going. But you couldn't bring it to people who didn't really understand it in this harsh way. You can bring it to them in examples in terms of the benefits that they were receiving, the social programs that were taking place in the country, that the health care, the education, all of these which became free, all of that. That's part of the socialist policies that were being introduced. And all they had to do was to continue bringing those kinds of benefits to the people in a way they would understand, and eventually they would have embraced it. But just in a matter of just a few months, begin to tell them the revolution is going from the country which was a capitalist country. And even the 4 years of the revolution, it never really changed. It was still a capitalist country. We had some more cooperatives introduced into the economy. Kind of measures and this ideology, which people never understood, was just asking too much of the people, and they never embraced it.
Would you say ultimately, Dr. Marisho, that the demise of the revolution had to do with greater powers at play? You hinted to, and if you remember historically, the Cold War period, the East versus the West. Do you think ultimately the demise of the revolution came down to foreign powers, that be two foreign international powers, the US on one end, Soviet on the other end, and the fear that Grenada was being embroiled and drafted into alignment with either side, that either one couldn't afford the risk?
Yes, I would say that there's a certain element of that that we cannot deny at all. The Cold War era, the world was divided up into camps, and Grenada was certainly a pawn in all of this. Because as small as we are, we aligned ourselves with the Soviet Union. We took a position on Afghanistan that was unpopular, for example, and that incurred a wrath. But for a time, Grenada established relations with Cuba. Grenada incurred the wrath of the United States. And even the very international airport that we were building at the time, which was built primarily for civilian purposes and for expanding our tourism, was touted by the United States as a Cuban Soviet military base that was going to be used to export revolution to Africa and other places. I mean, President Reagan actually went on national TV and showed satellite photographs of our runway to convince the United States population that this was a threat to the United States because you're building a runway that was far greater than what it should have been, which was a lie, in fact, because it was built according to normal specifications for an international airport. But of course, to build up that hype and to make Grenada look as this big threat to the United States, 133 square miles, small dot that could 28,000 times smaller than the United States, became a threat to the United States. But all in the same vein that you're talking about, which is the Cold War era and the fact that they were not going to allow another Cuba to be established in the southern part of the Caribbean.
Because you would well understand that the relationship between Cuba and the U.S., the Bay of Pigs mission and all that rivalry, we understand it all too well. That even what we see being played out on international scenes now with the embargo, this is not a today occurrence. There's history to that. So
exactly.
Do you think ultimately that the revolution was doomed to fail?
I wouldn't say so, I won't say so at all, because had this little clique of people not bought into that, had they gone along with the development that was taking place, recognizing that the people were 100% almost behind the revolution, even a survey that was carried out by the late Dr. Patrick Emmanuel after the collapse of the revolution showed that people were firmly behind the revolution. They were firmly behind Bishop as their leader. And all we had to do was to just continue in that vein. When Bishop went to the United States, he went to the United States to broker peace, to seek some kind of rapprochement with the United States government so that it would be less hostile towards us and to form some kind of relationship between Grenada and the United States that would have been less antagonistic. His mission at the time, and I think he was highly successful with that, because even in the ruling circles, I mean, they looked at this man and listened to his eloquence and the way he handled himself and said, maybe he's not so bad after all, because in the final days when the crisis actually took place, these were some of the people reaching out to Bishop to save him. They tried to save the Unison Lifeline against Washington Barbados. So it meant that the revolution was taking hold not only in Grenada, but gaining acceptance around the Caribbean. Even the Caribbean people, as a matter of fact, were supporting the revolution, and the number of grassroots people that came from all over the world to help with this revolution, it would not have failed had it not been for that ideological struggle with these guys, these fanatical guys that began to revise history and began to blame Bishop for everything, and instead of preserving. But if
I were to ask you, Dr. Marisho, that given the direction in which the world was heading historically, of course, coming from the Cold War period into the 70s, into the 80s, there was a shift the world was heading in a particular direction. There was of course, across the different parts of Europe, there's a falling of the Berlin Wall. Europe was being opened up. The world was heading in a different direction. And of course, the U.S. was leading that charge. You made a very important point that which started taking grassroots in Grenada was slowly spreading to the rest of the Caribbean. You've always heard the argument that geographically, that Grenada, because of its southern position, it created a military. That's the argument, and I'll ask you to chime in. Based on where Grenada was located geographically, it presented a strategic challenge for the U.S. in terms of its ability and closeness to the U.S. I know you hear about China and who's building long range. This is not a new conversation, and Grenada geographically became a threat to the stability, a potential threat to the stability of the U.S. Given its alliance to Cuba, the Soviet Union, you would certainly have to agree that at some point, the brighter minds should have seen this coming.
Yes, and I would say you are correct in part, and we have become so embroiled in that East-West struggle that maybe we eventually we would have succumb to those kinds of pressures, being a small country as we are. That is also possible. But also, it is also possible that just as how the Cuban Revolution has survived all of these years, despite all of the pressures from the United States, they're there. They ain't going anywhere. The revolution is intact. And the fact that we had that kind of generic relationship with Cuba, Grenada is like a province in Cuba. So the amount of assistance they would have been able to give us in all that were already given, and let me tell you, the majority of them never came to fruition because the revolution collapsed before that. I was able to see some of these documents, agreements that were signed for developmental projects in this country. This country would have been transformed in ways that we would not have been able to recognize.
I
tell you that example, because it wasn't about militarism. The little militarism that we had was just more symbolic than anything else. We can't be the United States.
Right.
It was just more to garner this sense of patriotism among our people and to make sure that people were willing and ready to defend the country if it came to that. But in terms of what was actually happening on the ground, in terms of real developmental projects, that was going to be the example that was going to spread far and wide within the Caribbean, because many of the Caribbean people were going to say, wow, if Grenada could do that, we want that too. And that was the threat. That was the danger of the Grenada Revolution, because of the example that it posed. Well, I guess for the United States, but I don't see why the United States, as big and as powerful and rich as it is, to try to prevent small countries like Grenada with scarce resources from using whatever means at our disposal to develop ourselves when they themselves are not aiding in that development.
They say develop.
In that particular period of time, without a single cent of help from the United States, that we were able to develop even more than the period before the revolution took place.
But you'll have to agree that development always comes at a cost, right. And the question always has to be the opportunity cost, that which must be given up in order to obtain the next best alternative. Is that a path and a sacrifice? The question is, who pays the tab for that? But let me ask you though, we talk about ideology. I've always asked the question, we talk about the ideological perspective, differences of ideology, which we always going to find. You find that that is just human nature. So for those who's probably thinking differences of ideology is something far-fetched within just political regimes, you and I as individuals, all of us have differences of ideology. 38 years on, Dr. Marichaud, are there lessons politically that are there lessons that we have learned or should have learned that is there for the taking, that we have abandoned in pursuit of what I don't know. When we, in the context of what the developmental agenda that we saw being forwarded in 4.5 years, and where we are now as a people.
I would say that we have learned some, but I think we have missed a golden opportunity. The revolution showed us that there was a new way to govern this country, a new way of governance that we had never seen before. It showed us also that with unity and patriotism and a leader that is visionary, how much is possible. And one of the mistakes I think that we made in the last 38 years is the fact that we never saw it fit to embrace the positives of the revolution. In fact, we tried to distance ourselves so far from the revolution that it has resulted in a level of backwardness and underdevelopment that could have been avoided. And so we still have to go back to that period, because there are still lessons that are salient for us, even to today. When I see debushing taking place, and we spend $10 million in debushing, something that people used to do voluntarily. Voluntarily, you didn't have to pay them a single cent to do that. Somebody was making a point to me a few days ago. You know how much $10 million could do for this country? I mean, in terms of even just setting up a project. I saw recently this guy who set up Mr. Telesford, a fowl chicken, factory for processing chickens and so on. I'm sure he didn't spend $10 million on that. I'm sure that didn't cost him $10 million. And we waste $10 million every year in the butchering only, when these are things that used to be done by the revolution. So we have to go back to this concept of voluntarism in the country. We are too small as a country to be paying people for things that I consider as unnecessary in terms of having to shell out money for that, but also things that we can get done simply by appealing to the patriotic instincts of Grenadians. But that lesson has to start again. It has to be revisited. We have to go back to that. And something like agro-processing. We had a whole agro-processing plant that we just sold away because we wanted to distance ourselves so far from the revolution. We have to go back to that. The same point Mr. Telesford is making. Just as how we just established a chicken processing plant. He says there's a need for a lot more of this, and we know that. And we can do that. $10 million every year to put on some project that will benefit the country and the people overall in the long run, than spending $10 million every year on the bushing. These are just some of the ordinary, simple examples that we can give. We have to go back to educating our people. The level of illiteracy that exists in Grenada today. I'm telling you that if the whole COVID situation had come about in the time of the revolution, the entire population, I would say high in the 90s, would have been fully vaccinated by now, because the level of consciousness and education that we had at that time would have been such that people would have understood the importance to go out there and get vaccinated in the face of a devastating virus like this. These are some of the things that we have to educate our people again. There's too much backwardness and illiteracy that is taking place in Grenada at the present time that is not being addressed. So we have learned some lessons, but the fact that we have gone so far away from trying to discredit the revolution has been to our disadvantage over the last 38 years, I would say.
Thank you very much, Dr. Terence Marishaw, representing, of course, an ex-member of the the Maurice Bishop Patriotic Movement and the Martyrs Foundation. I certainly hope as time progresses, as we inch closer to the anniversary of the intervention in 1983, that we would be able to continue this conversation. But certainly, we want to say thanks for taking off your time and being part of this conversation. We've come a long way, and we've come a long way to go. And I think certainly as a people, there's a lot of lessons that we've learned. The question is, are we committed to task to appreciate that the growth and development of this country supersedes any of our own personal ambition? And I think, Dr. Maisha, you would agree that was one of the driving force that made the revolution a success. It was appreciation, commitment to country against that superseded any feelings, any personal achievement, any individual gains or anything.
I totally agree, and that is another lesson. That's one of the things that we have to go back to. That sense of unity and patriotism, that love of country that that is missing today. I mean, we need to go back to that.
Indeed we do. We have to leave it here for now because for the purpose of time. It's just a minute on to the hour of 8 o'clock. At the top of the hour is going to be a bulletin of news from the BBC. Dr. Marisho, thank you for your perspective on that period in time. Folks, this is where we have to leave it for now. It's exactly 8 o'clock in the studios. We certainly have yourself a really wonderful day. JC loves you, reminding you to keep a positive mental attitude, and certainly remember that your attitude, the only difference between a good day and a bad day is your attitude. How are you going to deal with the circumstances that's around you? We now join the BBC. That's for you, that's for our radio listeners, our listeners in radio. We join the BBC for a bulletin of news already in progress. For those of you in television, we send you back to Master Control.